Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's show. We are going to be welcoming Aisling very, very soon. But before I kick it off, I just want to ask you this question. What if productivity problem in your workplace isn't a performance issue? It's actually the design of how you're engaging your employees. And what if the people you think are underperforming are actually over adapting just to survive? That is today's topic of conversation when we bring in Aisling Smith very, very shortly. But before I kick it off, I just want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connections to lands, water and community. I pay my respects to them and to their cultures and to the elders, both past, present and emerging. I always want to say thanks to the First Nations elders and leaders and storytellers who have appeared here on Cuppa to share their wisdom with us. It's been an incredible learning journey and one that I encourage everyone to go on. It is the wisdom that is here on beneath our feet for the last 60,000 years is something that we need to cherish and love and embrace in every way possible. So today we're talking about neuroinclusive leadership, not as a HR initiative, but as a competitive advantage. So joining me today is Aisling Smith, Neurodiversity Trainer of the Year, globally recognised neurodiversity empowerment coach and international speaker plus best-selling author. She's drawing on her lived experience as a late diagnosed autistic woman with ADHD and her work with global organisations and governments. Now, Aisling helps workplaces move beyond the awareness into meaningful action, where neurodivergent professionals don't just fit in, they stand out and excel. Now, let's welcome in Aisling right now. Aisling, welcome to Cuppa. This is your first time. It's so good to have you here today. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you, Luke. It's so good to be here. Thank you.
Now, you're new in our Cuppa ecosystem, and I absolutely love interviewing people for the first time, and absolutely love your work as well, Aisling. Like, I know we have just, we're getting a client across the line at the moment, and the efforting that you put into this space is beautiful to see. Why is that so? Why are you so passionate about this?
It's funny. It could be ADHD hyper focus. It could be it's my autistic niche that I care so much about. But I think, oh God, there's so many things. I know the work that I do is super powerful, and I don't mean that in an egotistical way at all, Luke. It's more that the results that when I work with an organisation, the results that they get. The feedback, the messages that I get from employees that I support, through supporting them or their managers, and just the difference that it makes is phenomenal. So I get so excited when the client reaches out or somebody shows interest in this topic, because I know the ripple effect is going to be huge and it's going to positively impact other people's lives in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's amazing to see that the awareness is definitely building in this space. And, you know, just even looking at my own brain now and just really trying to understand who I am and how I operate and work is something that is such a beautiful gift when we can actually sit with, you know, our brains and see how we can be better people, but also, you know, in workplaces, how leaders can be better supportive as well. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation. Now, you were diagnosed later in life, as many are. What shifted in you personally once you actually understood your neurotype?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So it began, my son was diagnosed when he was 2.5. And when it was in childcare, when a childcare worker said to me, Aisling, I don't know how to say this, but I think that Daniel might be autistic. So my immediate response was, oh my goodness, Daniel might be a genius. How can I help him to realize that? So that really set the trajectory for my whole journey. And I went through 4 years of therapy with him before he then got his official diagnosis. And that's when ADHD was introduced. And I had done over those 4 years a lot of research, a lot of insight, a lot of gained a lot of understanding into this field. And at that point, I just said, oh my God, can you do that testing on me? Like what you did with Daniel, I'd love to know how similar are we as a mother and son, and what, like, where do I sit? So they did, and that's when my diagnosis came about. Now, the ADHD, I was like, of course, that just makes so much sense. But the autism did take me by surprise, Luke, and I was shocked, and I didn't, I suppose, have the same reaction that I did when Daniel was identified. But then I had to kind of kick myself up the arse and just say, Aisling, no, like, think about your life. And it gave me that opportunity to reflect and see, where did this show up for me? Where have I struggled? What are all of the different instances that occurred, that had I known, things might have been different if I had the tools at that time, because I have them now. And I was grateful. So I think it was a big, I call it an awakening, Luke. And I just felt super grateful that I had the tools. I'd done so much work in personal development. I was a NLP trainer at that point, and hypnosis trainer. So, it didn't mean that I had all the answers in any way, but I was definitely able to take a different perspective and just really accept it and take it in and think, now, what can you do with this to help other people? Now that you know this, you're not alone. There's more people like you out there, and so I guess it created the mission that I'm on today.
Well, and it's really good to hear. Most of us have a moment in our life that really sends us on a trajectory of wanting to do something more. When you started to sit there and look at the way that workplaces were dealing with this situation, what were some of the biggest things that you saw as the biggest gaps? Like, maybe back then it was really awareness, but I suppose my question is, what is still being misunderstood in this neurodiversity space?
Yeah, well, back then it was mental health. I focused on mental health specifically because I figured, I kind of was like, well, because I was neurodivergent and I didn't know, my mental health suffered as a result. So what if we can go in and set up more supports to help people with that? And one of the courses that I ran was neurodiversity in the workplace. And that was the one that kept getting booked over and over and over again. And then I was being asked to do coaching, and I won some government contracts. I became a consultant and worked in a number of big organizations as an in-house consultant. And so I just completely niched then into neurodiversity and, focused on everything around that. So the awareness, was definitely number one. But now I find it's like, well, what comes after that? It is embedding it. It's creating, as I like to say, a neuroinclusive intelligence system for your organization. So in the same way that you approach strategy or finance or productivity or anything, it's just part of what can really support your business to thrive. And because I've seen it both ways.
Well, I'm going to ask you this question, and you might get frustrated with this question in parts as well. But most people package this up into a DE&I budget or an inclusion budget. But you're really saying that this is for organisations, if people are underperforming or productivity is not where it is, and this fundamentally is a massive thing that could easily turn the needle if there is a little bit more receptiveness to what this actually means. Correct?
Yeah. It's completely like, and I because I get business because I spent 20 years in corporate, and I was always very driven, very success focused. But I'm for people because I'm a coach and I'm very empathetic and heart centered. And I know that we can have both. We can have people and profits, and we can take care of our people and make sure that they thrive. And look, there's a thing that I say, Luke. It's like, I don't believe that anybody gets out of bed to go to work to do a bad job. But it's the circumstances. It's the, I don't feel safe, and psychological safety comes into it, right? So is that DE&I? Is that HR? Or is that just good business? Creating spaces where people can do their best. It's the purpose of our purpose as employees, but also an organization or a business, and, whatever it is your product is, and creating it, having having your employees being working at their best, not dreading going into work on Monday morning, not like wanting to leave early, not just turning off halfway through the week because they can't cope. You know, stress, there always are going to be different factors, but the safer we can feel and the more seen we are in our strengths and the challenges, because there will be challenges regardless, and that goes for both neurodivergent employees and, you know, neurotypical, if we were to use that word, employees as well. That everyone comes across challenges, but it's not about diminishing yourself or your capabilities, and that's quite often what happens for neurodivergent people. We've taken on negative internal programming for many years, and we speak to ourselves quite poorly internally. But that does come about because of a lot of external programming over the years where we've been told, oh, you're not good enough, or you're too much, or you're this, or you're that, or you're the other. So you begin to believe that. So what I try and do with people is to help them to rewrite that and focus on what they're really good at and what they really enjoy doing, and where they can really thrive. But also, let's look at what you find difficult. What do you hate doing? And see how can we make that work for you. Maybe Mary loves doing what you hate doing, but she hates doing what you love doing. So is there a way that we can make that work together? So yeah, there's a little bit of rejigging, I suppose you can say, that needs to be done sometimes to support people to be their best. But then when you do, everyone's happy.
And, well, that's what we want, isn't it? It's about wanting to come to work and doing our best job possible with our skill sets and the way that we work as best possible as well. Now, don't leave an opportunity today to not ask Ash a question. If you've got anything, please put it in your respective chat rooms. We've got chat rooms all over the shop, but I'm monitoring them all as we speak. Now, Ash, you do work globally. What patterns are you seeing right now in the workplace feedback around neurodivergent employees?
I'm really happy to say that it's raising, like the awareness is raising. So we're moving past that point where it's like, oh my God, there's neurodivergent people here. Yes, there are. Now it is really moving more towards that, supporting everyone to be their best. They will be the key patterns. It is very much the inclusion, which is the D&I side of things. That I love the Aussie way, like give everyone a go, and you know, the fairness of that. But there's more to it than that. Some patterns that I see specifically, and you touched on it a bit before, Luke. There are more and more late diagnosed people,
yes,
who are finding awareness, and that is like everywhere. And when this safety is created, when this awareness happens in an organization, people then do feel safe to say, you know what, I've just been diagnosed with ADHD, and I don't know what that means. Or, you know, I think, or I've been diagnosed with autism because, you know, my psychologist said that I should because my son or my daughter is. And a lot of it does come back to that, to the carers, to the parents, both men and women. Grandparents, I've found have been diagnosed as well. And for so many people, it is that awakening, like what I experienced, Luke, that there is this sense of, oh my goodness, that's the thing that I never knew. But, you know, now that I know it, what do I do? How can what do I need to do? So it's like, it's looking at, well, where can you best be supported? What adjustments do you require to work at your best? And that's going to be different for everyone. And it's not about, you know, pigeonholing people and saying, oh, you know, neurodivergent people, it's going to be so expensive for us. There are there are accommodations that can be made that don't cost anything. Most of them are more to do with listening, with support, with you know, how we communicate, how we phrase things, how we deliver task requests, how we as neurodivergent individuals, receive task requests. You want me to create a proposal for you. What do you want it to look like? How many pages? Do you want pictures? Do you want numbers? Like, do you, what specifically is the outcome that we're looking for? So it's being more specific with things, making things more clear for people. And then when clarity and communication and when that is embedded in leadership principles or true employees, then it makes it easier. But it does come from awareness, because you don't always have to say, oh, well, Mary's neurodivergent, so I have to treat her differently to the rest of the team.
I was going to ask you that, Ash, because like from a leader's perspective, they're already balancing so much. And when you've got a neurotypical leader, and I'm just sort of thinking about my sales director days where it was like, this is the way you do it. This is how, like, and I just remember, just even though me personally, ADHD and all that type of stuff as well. But, like, how do we incorporate this so it's seamless? Because there seems to be such a big bridge between how we need to interact with individuals to make them perform better. Or is it? Or is it this is the balance that leaders need to be in this new operating system that we're in?
Well, look, there can be a bridge, and every business, every organization is different. And I work across, like, from government to big industries and global businesses and local councils or small local businesses in construction or in HR or in healthcare. So there are many different areas. The work that people do within these fields is very different as well. So it's not a one size fits all ever, but it's when you embed neuro-inclusive leadership principles as a leader, as a manager, it's something that you don't just need to do for the 1 in 5, for that, 20% of the workforce who are neurodivergent or maybe neurodivergent. You embed them for everyone, because they will support all neurotypes. Neurotypes, everybody will be supported, because it's just creating more clarity. And who doesn't need, in a world that can be quite difficult to navigate, who doesn't appreciate more clarity? Now, I do sometimes get pushback from leaders who say, oh, it's like, that's a lot of work to do all of that up front or to give that much information. But I often say, well, we're going back to the productivity piece, Luke. Like, what about when people are stuck and they can't get going because they're not clear on what exactly it is that you need them to do? Or what about if people do what they think you mean, but it's completely wrong? How much time is wasted then that you have to go back over work that's been done and incorrectly, and just because there wasn't clarity at the beginning? And that can just be that. And it's not even trying to mind read what people want or need. It's just simply asking, like, how can I best lead you? Like, what do you really need to be the best version of yourself at work today? Every day, any day, we all have our good days and our bad days, but like, if you know how your employees work, and I think like that in the age of AI, being more human, being more connected, and being like more understanding of you, of who you're working with and their strengths and where they need support is the key.
I love how you've just made that every employee angle, because it is true. Like, if we can really get to the core of each employee, because not every employee has gone through the process you have to understand, what's really going on and how your brain operates and the beautiful nature that it can operate in. So I really do like that. Many employees or neurodivergent professionals really mask it though. Like, what does masking really cost someone over time?
Yeah. So, like, obviously I'm talking a lot about late diagnosed or, people, but then you have people who have known, like Daniel, who since they're a child, so they've known their whole life that they're autistic or they have ADHD or bipolar or dyslexia or whatever their neurotype may be. And they know themselves better than anybody does. But quite often And not always, because I don't ever like to generalize, because we're all individual and everyone's situation is completely different. But once upon a time, in the medical system, it was looked at very negatively to be neurodivergent. So there are a lot of people who would have been diagnosed earlier in life who were maybe would have created a perception that being autistic or having ADHD is a very negative thing. So I need to hide it. And I need to make sure that nobody ever sees it. And I'm not going to disclose it to anybody, because I just want to, because I don't think that it's a good thing, because I've been told throughout my life, I've been programmed to believe this is not good. So just keep your head down and say nothing. And when you're masking, I often liken it to, it's like wearing like a suit of armor. You're disclosing, or you're not disclosing, you're covering up who you really are. And I would joke and say I was like a chameleon when I was in the workplace, because I'd be like, oh, I can be anyone you want me to be. Like, this is a superpower that I have. I thought it was a great thing, but it's exhausting. Like, because, and it's like, who do I need to be today? Who do I need to be for this person? Who am I? What's the, what hat do I wear in this situation? And I know that I think that we all do to a point. I often get this from people in my workshops when I talk about this topic. But I used an analogy one day for a client who I was coaching, who was burnt out after some chronic masking, and she just kind of didn't understand. And I said, well, she went to the gym. And I said, when you're in F45 and you've got your the person that you're working out beside, and you're doing the same workout the whole way through, say that's your coworker, you're doing the whole workout, it's your day at work, and at the end of the workout, they want to go for coffee, or they're full of life, and they want to go for a drink, and you're totally exhausted, you're totally wiped. You've been doing the same work in that day, but you've been carrying a 30 kilo weight, a weighted vest, weighted anchors on your wrists and on your ankles, and it's weighing you down, but you're pushing through at the same pace as everybody else. But there's a point at which that it's very difficult to continue to mask, or to stim, or to show up as you think you should show up in this instance, or you think that I need to be this person here because I was told before that I'm not allowed to behave this way, or I'm not allowed to do that. And neurodivergent people in the workplace, we're navigating through a system of unwritten rules, unspoken expectations, and we're quite often like walking on eggshells, not quite sure as to, what's going to happen next, or are we doing the right thing? We're always judging ourselves to see, where we're going, if we're going in the right direction. So I do always say, I carry this little cup with me, right. And I say to managers and leaders, I'm like, give your co-workers, your teammates, your team micro compliments, just to let them know that they're going okay. Just micro compliments, just something to say, hey, I really like the way that you displayed that presentation. I really like your insight in the meeting. Thank you for speaking up, or that was a lovely worded email. Something little to help people to know that they're on the right track. It's not about, big upping people too much, but it is about helping people to know they're doing a good job. They're being acknowledged. I can see that you're doing a good job. And little by little, people then can say, oh, I am enough. And then the mask can sometimes then begin to come off.
I absolutely love that. And those micro acknowledgements, they go so far. They really do. The little simple gestures, the little simple things absolutely go a long way. For that person, though, the individual themselves, how can someone actually tell the difference between I'm bad at this job and this environment isn't designed for how my brain works?
I always like to say, think about what you do well. And that can be hard to see, because, it's like, well, I don't know what I do well. But we really have to kind of think about, what are the things that you love to do? And how do you do them in this workplace? Like, what have you done well? Or even if you can't think it for yourself, is there someone that you trust? Is there someone that you can sit down with to talk about this? I often think, performance reviews are often focused on all of the bad things, what you didn't get done. And I love to be like, well, what if it was focusing on, well done, great work. And then what if I see like that you might have struggled with this, was there something going on? Because sometimes it can be, there's something going on personally in the background, or there might be something else. Or it could be, like I use the example, I didn't do my tax returns for 5 years, Luke. Horrendous, I know. But I felt I had trauma around, now perspective looking back, I had PTSD and trauma around doing that, around financials, around, going into that space. But I could only see it when I came out the back of it. But form filling or putting any of that stuff together, I would get stuck. I would get into like a shutdown mode. And it's the fight, flight, freeze or fawn mode essentially. And for me, it's freeze. Mine is like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to pretend like it doesn't exist. And that can often be the case because I don't know how to deal with this. So I'm just pretend it's not there. And it's not about being neglectful or, a bad employee or having poor performance. It's actually pulling yourself. And I know because I, do it myself, but I have the awareness that I catch myself and say, okay, you're doing it again. What's this? What is this task? Why are you having difficulty with it? Can you outsource it? Or can you body double somebody and just get it done? Is there a time of the day that's better that for you to do it? Like I often look at circadian rhythms with my clients when I'm going through productivity techniques, because some people say, oh, just, use the Pomodoro. I've used it. It's great. I did use it before. It's great. And then I just didn't like it anymore because we have an interest-based nervous system and we love novelty and newness. And then sometimes we want to change things up. So I'm like, there is not just one way to do anything. There are loads of ways. We have to find the way that supports you right now to get what's done, because some things are important and whether you like it or not, it just has to be done. So how can we support you in getting that done? And I often say mapping across ways that you do things well in could be other areas of your life or at work, and then applying those principles to doing the things that you don't like doing so much.
Awesome. And for those watching today, what are some other because I know you just mentioned one there about understanding your circadian rhythms, but what are some other small, maybe practical adjustments that individuals can actually experiment with immediately, whether that's around meetings or communication or work design or sensory overload?
Well, there's so many things. If it's sensory overload, it can be something as simple as noise cancelling headphones can make a big difference to not hear any noise. It could be the positioning of where your desk is at work. Just maybe you're in a high, thoroughfare area where there's lots of busyness happening, and it's very distracting for you because you just kind of get caught off in different areas. Or maybe it's, maybe you work in an office that everyone, it's very social and people pop around to your desk a lot. And then every time that happens, it breaks your hyper focus and you find it really hard to get back into the flow. So maybe you need to, I often say, put a stoplight, to say, please don't disturb, or, come and visit when you're not in that hyper focus or when you're not on a deadline and having to get things done. But every environment is different, right? I love my up-down desk. So there's certain work that I'll do standing. There's certain things that I do sitting. And I get different energy from doing both of those in that way. It could be, the time of the day that you do certain tasks. So I build a lot of presentations. I do a lot of research for when I'm doing a presentation or a training for a client. I have to do them in the middle of the night. It's horrendous, but I found that that's my way. So I might start it at maybe 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening and I'll go straight through until maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because I'm in it. There's no distractions. There's no phone calls coming through. There's no emails. I don't have to divide my attention. I've put my son to bed. I can just get into it, and I can keep doing it until I finish, and but it's finding your way, Luke, and the way that works for you.
Yeah, I love that. Now, for someone who hasn't disclosed their neurodivergence, what advice would you give?
It is that feeling of safety, and I think it's who do we give the advice to the individual or to the manager? Because
both,
both. It's having that sense of I think that awareness that I've got ADHD. I've just been diagnosed with ADHD, and it makes a lot of sense for me in my life. But when you become diagnosed, if you decide to go down the route of medication, it can take a little bit to get into your flow. Because you're trying different medications and different, and everybody's body is different, and our wiring is different, so it can be different. So for managers, it's having patience and it's having empathy and understanding, because a lot of the time when that person gets on that medication, the focus and the ability to complete tasks and do things that they may not have been able to do previously is phenomenal. With the I see, I guess with the individual, it is finding, grounding yourself, finding that safe person that you feel, I feel safe with you, explaining, I have a keynote that I called, it's a bit tongue in cheek. It's called "No, We're Not All on the Spectrum," because quite often, or the other one's like, "No, not everyone has ADHD nowadays," because oftentimes in people's best intentions, that's how they will respond to somebody and say, "Oh, sure, everyone has ADHD nowadays." So to somebody who has, or everyone, we're all on the spectrum.
Yep.
And you've had to go through the diagnostic process, which is a big thing. You're unpacking your whole life. You're going back over all of the experiences that you have where this showed up in your life, and it's not always positive. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, that's for sure. So you've just kind of unpacked all of this stuff. You've got open wounds, essentially, because there's almost like a grieving period. So there's anger and there's sadness and there's and there's that regret and that, I wish I knew sooner. And then what does that mean for me now? And then it's like misunderstanding, where am I at? And if you don't see it in a positive light, if you see it negatively, then that can be even worse again. So the work that I do is very much based around empowerment, because I think if you feel empowered as a human, or if you have the ability to empower someone, if you are a manager, to empower your employees to feel, well, this is great. This makes sense because you're so good, giving the micro compliments, saying, you're so good at doing this, or you're so good with people, or you're so your pattern recognition or your attention to detail is fantastic, or you're great at problem solving or innovation. Highlighting in that individual what that looks like from your perspective as your manager, and that it's a good thing, because then that person then knows, oh wow, okay, I'm safe. And just then navigating through it, that this is it's going to take a little bit of adjustment, but it's going to be good in the long run, if you choose to see it that way.
With working with all the organizations that you have done, what are some of the good things that you're seeing from businesses? Is there anything that stands out from organizations that have really adapted this really well that you've seen? And what sets them apart?
Not just making it a tick box. So there is an organization in Ireland who have really, their head of people, made this a critical element of everything that they do. So in every single element of the organization, because I do believe it needs to not just be in an isolated area. I often run like a lunch and learn. I've got, look, because this is Neurodiversity Awareness Month. So people will say to me, oh, how many can attend? I'm like, everyone, invite everybody. I don't want anybody to not come, because trainings, I do try and keep them smaller so that we can, be more intimate. But I'm like, everybody just needs to know the fundamentals. It's really important. And then looking at the manager training. Manager training is a really important element, because managers are crucial to, that psychological safety, that person thriving or just, surviving poorly in the workplace. By being able to be that human, heart-centered manager who can see people's brilliance and bring it out of them and lift people up, it's such a gift. So harnessing those people and organizations who are focusing on the training of their managers. And then in different departments, you see, as I was saying, like different, what neurodiversity looks like in construction is different to what it looks like in HR, what it looks like actually on a construction site versus in the office versus in, different working environments, even in a finance office, in a engineering office, like, because our roles are different, the things that we do are different. We need to, unpack how can we create this to be a psychologically safe, neuro-inclusive working place where people can do their best work, where they can feel safe, where they can do all of the things so that we expect of them. Because sometimes there are expectations, but we don't always then go back and see, are we providing this person with all the tools they need to successfully execute the task, or are to actually get those expectations become reality? What are they missing? Do they need this, or this? And that's different. So the organizations that are doing it well are seeing that. Yeah. And so like I have a tool that shows the gaps and that an organization can then see. And it's about everyone being honest and not kind of portraying, this is what we'd like to have, but we're not quite there yet. But sometimes people say, oh no, they utilize, they say, well, this is what we'd like to have, as if it's what they already have. And it's not always the case, unfortunately.
Not always there. Ash, for companies wanting to reach out to you, like, what are some of the things that you provide besides like the one-off moments? Like, what's your product offering for organizations or those that are interested?
I guess there's it's evolved. They're beginning with those awareness sessions, like for everyone, for all of the organization. But then I create a lot of bespoke trainings. I'm getting more requests for that, and I love doing that, because I will write the values of the company, the goals of the company. I sit down with HR. I sit down with different leaders, and I really kind of understand, like, what is going to be most important. How can we make this be in your language and really sticky for you? So I do a lot of that kind of bespoke work. I have a suite of e-learning trainings that are going to be released this month, hopefully, all going well. All going well. And then I guess it's just evolving. The e-learning is good to have people the opportunity to look into recruitment, because I sometimes run trainings on recruitment, but then you're not recruiting until next week, or in 2 months, and you've forgotten what you learned in the training. So what I like to do is have the e-learning as a backup, and then it's like, here when you need it. This is how you can put together a really inclusive job description and inclusive interview techniques, and the onboarding, etc. This is about culture. I have another one about culture, about creating that that safety and that sense of belonging for everybody, so everyone can thrive. And the employee side of things. So I do coaching. I am an in-house coach for a lot of different organizations, and I love that. It's phenomenal, and I love working with people one-on-one and really supporting them to be their best and supporting their managers. I often do it with both, and but my time is getting short because I do a lot of keynotes too, and I travel speaking at conferences and events as well as running trainings and coaching. So I'm creating, hopefully to be released later this year or early next year, a coach training academy, I suppose you could call it, where I'll train people to become diversity coaches or neuro empowerment coaches, as I like to say. So there's a few things coming up, Luke, and I suppose it's in this space. It's all about neuro inclusion, neuro empowerment, and
I absolutely love, the journey that you're on. And I love how it's also inclusive, how it's not just about you. You want to train up coaches and build out broader models that can support many other people. Now, Ash is part of our beautiful community. We've got over almost 100 experts and thought leaders across all different topic areas, including this one. And you can come and browse the site. You can message Ash directly as well, find out a little bit more. And like I said, we've put it forward in front of one client already, and we're looking forward to seeing how that results as well, Ash, because I've got no doubt that there's going to be many other opportunities for you to be able to get your message out there as far and wide as possible. Ash, any parting words for our audience today as we close up the room?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Luke, and for having me as part of the community. I'm so grateful. As I mentioned, I love doing this work. I feel so grateful to have been called to do this, and how I channel it across in businesses and organizations. As parting words, I guess I think if you can just think differently, think about people, think about those around you, and the quirkiness or the differences or the nuances that people are bringing to the room, and it might annoy you sometimes, and it might be frustrating, but however, sometimes there's something deeper underneath that for somebody else, and if we can all just be a little bit more understanding or kinder, it can make a big difference, and that will go a long way in supporting everyone.
Well, the world needs that in general. So let's start just by the individual people that we're interacting with every day. What a beautiful message to leave everyone with. Ash, thanks so much for joining us here for a cuppa today. It's been a beautiful, beautiful conversation, and not going to be our last one. I can say that much. So thank you, Ash.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, everyone, for being a part of Cuppa today. A beautiful conversation, one that you can feel free to share with everyone afterwards. We have the replay going out later on this afternoon or first thing tomorrow. It's on our YouTube channel now, and it'll be on Spotify and ready to replay wherever you need to share it with others. Maybe take your leadership team through it and see how you can bring Ash into your workplace. Also, make sure that you do check out cuppa.tv and join our free community. It's a community group that we've launched. We've already got a couple of hundred members already joining up for it. It is a free community. There is no cost involved, and allows you to be able to stay up to date with all our experts and conversations. We've got loads of events coming up across the country, whether it's virtual or in person. And we also want to make sure that you are connected directly with our experts, storytellers, and thought leaders, so they can support you navigate your moments in life. That is it, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of Cuppa today. I can't wait for our next show. Make sure you check it out all online, and I'll see you soon. See you later, everyone. Bye.